On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared during a scheduled international passenger flight from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, Malaysia, to Beijing Capital International Airport, China. The aircraft, a Boeing 777-200ER, departed at 12:42 a.m. local time with 239 people on board. The last voice communication from the cockpit occurred at 1:19 a.m., when the co-pilot calmly acknowledged a handoff to Vietnamese air traffic control. Just minutes later, the plane vanished from civilian radar. What followed was an unprecedented aviation mystery, an international search operation, an outpouring of public speculation, and a global push for transparency and reform in airline tracking protocols. Initial radar data from Malaysian military installations showed that MH370 had turned sharply westward, deviating from its planned flight path. It flew back across the Malay Peninsula and then northwest along the Strait of Malacca. At 2:22 a.m., the plane disappeared from military radar as well. No distress signal, no mayday call, and no indication of mechanical failure had been sent. Within hours, Malaysian authorities launched a search and rescue operation in the South China Sea, where the plane was expected to be. However, within days, new satellite data from Inmarsat revealed that the aircraft had continued flying for up to 7 more hours. These findings drastically shifted the search zone to the southern Indian Ocean, a vast, deep, and remote area seldom traversed by commercial flights or shipping routes. The satellite data was derived from automatic hourly communications, or handshakes, between the aircraft and Inmarsat's satellite. By analyzing the Doppler effect of these signals, experts developed a series of potential arcs that traced MH370's probable final path. A consensus emerged that the plane likely ended its flight somewhere west of Perth, Australia. The search effort grew into the largest and most expensive in aviation history. More than 24 countries participated, contributing aircraft, naval vessels, and technical expertise. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB, led the underwater search, which focused on a 120,000 square kilometer area of the seabed. Despite deploying sophisticated tools, side-scan sonar, autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, and deep tow systems, the initial search, which lasted from 2014 to early 2017, failed to locate the main wreckage. The only confirmed physical evidence came in 2015 and 2016, when debris, including a flapron, horizontal stabilizer fragments, and engine cowling pieces, washed ashore on islands and coastlines along the western Indian Ocean. These components were confirmed by international aviation investigators to be parts of MH370. Yet they offered few clues into the aircraft's final moments. No cockpit voice recorder or flight data recorder, the so-called black boxes, was ever found. The lack of conclusive data gave rise to a multitude of theories. Some suggested a sudden mechanical or electrical failure incapacitated the crew. Others speculated about a hijacking or even a cyber attack. The most controversial theory involved deliberate action by a crew member, particularly Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah. Supporters of this theory noted that a flight simulator recovered from his home included a route eerily similar to the suspected MH370 path. However, investigations by Malaysian and international authorities found no definitive evidence to support any single hypothesis. In 2018, a new search was commissioned by the Malaysian government and carried out by the private company Ocean Infinity. Using a fleet of advanced AUVs, the company scanned previously unexplored areas of the Indian Ocean, operating under a no-find, no-fee agreement. The mission ended without success. As of 2025, over a decade has passed since MH370 disappeared. In February 2025, Ocean Infinity launched a renewed search effort, this time with improved technology and refined drift modeling based on oceanographic data. However, rough seas in April forced a temporary pause. Despite setbacks, optimism remains among search teams and families. The MH370 incident exposed critical weaknesses in international aviation monitoring. At the time of the disappearance, commercial aircraft flying over oceans were not required to transmit continuous positional data. This gap allowed MH370 to effectively vanish without trace. In response, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, adopted new standards, mandating aircraft to report their position every 15 minutes when flying over remote areas. Several airlines voluntarily implemented real-time tracking systems with even shorter intervals. The tragedy also prompted changes in the way authorities handle crisis communication and intergovernmental coordination. During the early days of the MH370 crisis, contradictory statements, delayed data releases, and perceived mismanagement severely eroded public trust. In later years, Malaysia and partner countries made efforts to improve transparency and share findings more openly. Another legacy of MH370 is the advancement of satellite tracking technologies. Systems such as space-based ADS-B, automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, now allow for near-global aircraft monitoring. The aviation community also accelerated research into aircraft system redundancies, pilot mental health screening, and underwater locator beacon improvements. Public interest in MH370 has not waned. Documentaries, books, and independent investigations continue to revisit the case. Online communities of aviation experts and enthusiasts meticulously analyze newly released data, advocate for renewed searches, and provide support to the victims' families. For the families of the 239 passengers and crew, the loss remains a living trauma. In the absence of conclusive answers, many live with unresolved grief. Memorials have been established in Kuala Lumpur, Beijing, and other cities, and families continue to hold annual remembrance events, urging governments not to abandon the search. The disappearance of MH370 stands as a somber reminder of both the strengths and limits of modern aviation. It demonstrated that, despite enormous technological progress, mysteries can still endure. It also highlighted the need for unified global aviation protocols and the moral responsibility to pursue truth and closure for those affected. Until the main wreckage is located and the flight recorders recovered, the case of MH370 will remain one of aviation's greatest unsolved tragedies. But the pursuit of answers continues. With each advancement in ocean exploration and data analysis, there remains hope that one day, the fate of flight MH370 will finally be revealed. In the years following the tragedy, the psychological toll on those affected has become an important but often overlooked dimension of the MH370 narrative. Many family members of the victims have spoken publicly about the ongoing trauma of living without answers, an emotional limbo compounded by the absence of physical remains, personal belongings, or even a definitive cause of death. Grief counselors and trauma specialists have worked with these communities, yet the unique nature of ambiguous loss has presented enduring challenges. Some families have pursued legal action against Malaysia Airlines, Boeing, and various aviation authorities, citing negligence and lack of transparency. From a legal and diplomatic perspective, MH370 also tested the mechanisms of international cooperation. The tragedy highlighted gaps in jurisdictional authority when a commercial flight involving multiple nationalities disappears over international waters. Negotiations between Malaysia, China, and Australia sometimes encountered friction over leadership roles, cost sharing, and data access. The incident underscored the need for standardized global protocols in aviation disaster response and joint investigation management. Environmental factors also complicated the search. The Indian Ocean is characterized by powerful currents, deep trenches, and unpredictable weather patterns. Drift modeling, used to trace debris locations back to potential crash zones, relied on complex oceanographic data, which itself was often incomplete or imprecise. These environmental challenges, combined with the vastness of the search area, made MH370 a logistical and technological ordeal unmatched in aviation history. Meanwhile, technological advancements inspired by MH370's disappearance are gradually reshaping global flight safety. Companies have developed satellite-based systems capable of recording cockpit audio and flight data in real time, transmitted instantly to ground servers. These innovations, though costly, offer a potential safeguard against future disappearances. Ultimately, MH370 represents more than a singular event. It is a multifaceted crisis that intertwines engineering, geopolitics, communication policy, and human psychology. It has redefined how aviation crises are perceived and managed, and it continues to shape the way the world thinks about disappearance, evidence, and closure in the modern age.